Join me on a journey where getting lost is the only true destination. But no matter how far we stray, we always come back.
What if I told you that you've never actually traveled anywhere, and that every destination you've ever reached has been a projected manifestation from within your own mind? Imagine that you're walking across the street. You know for a fact that in order to get to the other side, it's required that you first walk half the distance. Then you realize that in order to walk at least half the distance, you first have to walk a quarter of the distance. But in order to walk a quarter of the distance, you first have to walk an eighth of the distance, and so on and so forth. By this logic, it would take an infinite amount of steps to reach the other side, as there'd always be a new minimum distance you'd have to travel, technically rendering you immobile. This is known as a falsidical paradox, which relies on faulty reasoning in order to be effective. The scenario above, aka the dichotomy paradox, only works if one assumes that there's an infinite distance between you and the other side of the street, and completely breaks down once you realize that there's a finite distance between points A and B. But what if you discovered a time machine and used it to go back in time to visit Sir Isaac Newton in order to have a chat with him about your physics homework? Who better to ask than the inventor of calculus himself? Except, Newton admits that he's never seen such complex mathematics, but is intrigued by the equations as they may be able to help him determine the speed in which an apple fell from a tree. Disappointed, you return to your own time wondering why Newton was credited as the creator of calculus when he knew nothing about it when you spoke with him. As it turns out, Newton copied the equations you discussed with him and claimed them as his own. But if you didn't create calculus, and neither did Newton, who did? This is known as a causal loop, in which a future event causes something to occur in the past, which leads to the future event that causes the past event, leading to the future event, and so on and so forth. So, in this scenario, a bootstrap paradox was created as calculus exists without a point of origin. But what if you were a struggling law student who hired a tutor with the agreement being that you'll pay them when you win your first court case? Well, what would happen if the tutor decided to sue you after you decided to change careers? Well, if the tutor sued you and won the case, then you'd simply be required to pay them what they're owed, right? Well, technically, you wouldn't be required to pay them, as the original agreement states that you'd pay them when you won your first court case. And since you lost this case, being your first, you're not required to pay. But what would happen if you actually won the case? You wouldn't be required to pay your tutor, but due to the original agreement, you would be. So, which is correct? The paradox of the court is a unique situation that is thankfully remedied by our legal system, in which I'm not sure who'd actually win. Morally, you would be wrong, but legally, the jury is still out on that.